What's going on, guys? What's going on, Thai Squad? What's going on, everybody? So the New York Knicks bounce back in Game 3. And I'm just going to say this. This New York Knicks team that we are seeing, that we saw, was a different team. This team does not have Carmelo Anthony on it. This team does not have Jeremy Lin on it. This team does not have Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Oakley. This team, I don't know where this team was. I don't know where this defense, game 1, game 2, or this offense was, games 1 and 2. Because you let Indiana run all over you in the paint, and on the boards. And I'm going to say this. We know that Neesmith got injured with an ankle injury, and I hope he comes back 100% better in this series. But we also know that Game 4, Indiana's going to have to win Game 4. Like, the shot, the bucket for Halliburton, I think, was like, okay, New York has to get a game. And now what they did, they got a game. They got a game. And there's nothing that you can say about it because at the end of the day, would Indiana win this game? Yes, probably. Would Indiana want to win a game like this and then bounce to Game 4 and fleet the Knicks? Yes. I definitely think after going up 2-0, like, Jalen Brunson, Game 1 had 43, Karl Anthony Towns had 35. That wasn't enough, Game 1. And then you come out Game 3 with Brunson missing two frees. Like, you come out Game 2 with Brunson missing 2 frees in the fourth quarter. Like, all of these games has been close. Because we know the rivalry. We know what this rivalry means for both of these teams. Because both of these teams has been met up in the second round and in the conference finals now. So we basically know what this rivalry means for the New York Knicks and the Pacers. Now, the Knicks, like, you had Jalen Brunson have a good game, and you're going to need that from Jalen Brunson. You're going to need that from Bridges. You're going to need that from Towns. Because if you don't have that from your free players, like, there is just nothing that you can do. Nothing that you can do, and you're in a situation where if Indiana took over the game in the fourth quarter, it would be 3-0 right now. We would be saying, why would New York lose this game? Why would the Knicks lose this game? Point simple. New York had to win a game. Because if New York didn't win a game, yeah, we could probably say this series would be over. And we would look at Indiana waiting for either Minnesota or OKC to face them in the finals. We could see that. But with the Knicks being to a conference finals since 2000, and the Knicks being in the conference finals since 2000, there is nothing that you can say that could say that the Knicks had a good team, is having a good team, because their team last year was decent. We can bring up the trade, we can bring up all the trade and not look back at this. But honestly, is this worth it? A trade that for Carl Anthony Towns. Like, we're going to look back at this Carl Anthony Towns trade like we look back at the Paul George trade. No. Like, we're going to look back if the Knicks make the NBA Finals or if the Knicks don't make the NBA Finals. We're going to be looking back at this trade and say, well, New York traded for Mikal Bridges. New York traded for Carl Anthony Towns. And we're going to look back at those trades and say, was it worth it or was it not worth it? Because that's what we're looking at the Paul George trade right now between OKC and the Clippers at that time. Because now, when we look at OKC, they got Shea, who's the MVP this year. So basically what I'm saying is that if New York winning this game, is this the only win that they're going to get? Or is this, are we going to look back at this trade? Are we going to look back at the Knicks and say they missed out on Kevin Durant? They missed out on Kyrie Irving. They signed Jalen Brunson, who looks like a good signing. But we are going to look back at this trade and say, was this a good move by the New York Knicks to trade for Carl Anthony Towns, for Mikal Bridges? Because at the end of the day, when you look at it, you could honestly say it's probably a good trade, it's probably not a good trade. And like New York is probably, the Knicks are probably going to be in the playoffs every year going forward with this big three, because who else are you going to add to this big three if you don't win this series? Are you going to add a Giannis, a Kevin Durant type of player? Because right now, with New York being down 2-1, they still have time to win a series, to win all 4 games. But with Thibodeau going with a new lineup, if that lineup works, if the lineup works for Thibodeau, and he goes with the same lineup, because, like, we've seen teams in the past, like the Warriors, change their lineups. We've seen teams now go play small ball. So with Karl Anthony Towns, with a Mikal Bridges, with a Jalen Brunson, those three guys have to step up. Like, you have to step up because right now you're down 2-1. You don't know who's going to step up game one because who's going to step up game four, I mean, because if you're not going to step up at that point, are you going to just drop this game and not look back at it and just say, oh, we tried to win this game and it didn't play out like we wanted it to? That's going to play a definitely factor because most teams don't come back in a playoff series down 2-0. Most teams get get the broom teams that are up 2-0, bring the brooms out after they fleet. After they fleet a team. So for the Knicks coming back up 2-0 and making a 2-1 series, they have to be able to play a better factor because with Thibodeau making those adjustments, I think Rick Carlisle is going to have to make adjustments now because you went with a different lineup. You're not scoring the basketball. You scored the basketball well. But there is something that's going to have to happen for game four because we know Indiana dropped game four to the Bucks, dropped game four to the Cavs. So it's not anything simple that the Pacers, are going to not back down. New York isn't going back down because we know the rivalry. We know the story of these two teams. We know the factor of these games. It's going to be interesting to see how they play on the defense, how both teams respond on the defense side of the ball and on the offense side of the ball. That is going to play definitely a big factor because if you have Karl Anthony Towns scoring 23 and then having him scoring 35 game one, having them scoring 24 this game, and then Jalen Brunson scoring 43 the first game, and then having Jalen Brunson scoring 24. New York is definitely going to need to have the same game, have the same game plan. Because if you don't change up the lineup, then Indiana might go into a 3 or 2 zone, might go into a man, might run different plays on the offense side of the ball. Because if you let Indiana do that, there is nothing basic, nothing simple. The way you can stop Indiana if, like, the New York Knicks somehow, like, don't win this game, don't be dominant, don't be that bit, doesn't play a big of a factor for the entire series, you're basically telling me right now that this series right now isn't going to be a win series. It's going to be not a win series for New York if they can play the style of basketball like they did, because we've seen teams drop game ones. We've seen teams like just get run over and not be dominant in the paint, because most teams aren't that dominant in the playoffs. Like, we've seen the Hawks. We've seen how Detroit plays in the playoffs. We've seen how Indiana plays against all of these different teams. Like, these teams, like, these two teams aren't going back down because of the history of these two teams, because of the history of Reggie Miller and Patrick Ewing going back and forth, because of how we have the history now with Halliburton and Brunson. Both of these teams got way better last offseason to face each other again, because we know Brunson went down with that injury last year in the playoffs. So with this game probably being close, with every game being close, and we're seeing that, we have to say at the end of the day that which series in playoffs history was the best series. But guys, sub if you're new, and never give up your dreams. And I hope all of you guys are safe out there, and stay blessed, everybody, and peace.